Thanks so much. Thanks so much for that warm introduction. When Carl asked me to speak, he said he was interested in completing the Dzirasa trifecta. I'm the third Dzirasa to speak here. I wish we could say we saved the best for last, but my wife gets that distinction. So I'll come in number 2. Sorry, Kaf. But I think about how we're connected. I think about everyone in this room and how we share the love for this institution of UMBC. But despite all these connections that we have, there's so much in this digital world that seeks to tear us apart. But I think we've got a different choice we're able to make. We're able to think about these experiences in a way to both drive education and to bring us together as people. And that was evident in our experience with the National Museum of African American History and Culture when the Smithsonian asked us to take their Slavery and Freedom exhibit online. Now, you've got to understand the context of what was happening in this space. We're in the height of the global pandemic. It's 2020. There's no vaccine yet. Everyone is at home. Everyone's scared. Case counts are rising. Death tolls are rising. We're glued to our TV, not sure what's happening next. In the midst of that, we're watching TV, and we're witnessing an unarmed black man be murdered. George Floyd's death rocked the nation. Protests erupting everywhere. We're having conversations about social justice. We're having conversations about how African Americans have been treated today and in the past. It is that backdrop in which we are creating this experience. And so we knew in that moment we had to tell a very compelling story. We knew in that moment we had to do something that was world-class, that would speak to the moment in which we're in. Let's take a look at what we built.
History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again.
How do we begin to think about experiences that bring us together? And really we came to 3 fundamental pillars of how we deliver this project. First, expanding access. Second, designing in context. And third, ensuring that empathy was at the forefront. You can imagine, we won the contract, it's a national competition, we're excited, and we're thinking about the VR headsets that we're gonna put on and how we're gonna walk virtually through this museum. And the museum curators, in their infinite wisdom, are like, slow down. We want to make sure everyone has the ability around the world to access the site. See, less than 6% of the internet population globally has access to a VR headset, and so the barrier is too large. We knew we had to target smartphones. We knew we had to target desktop computers and everything in between. The average person that goes to the museum is above the age of 50, with the majority of them being 60 to 90 years old. So there's a huge opportunity to bring in a whole new demographic for the museum. Typically with a project like this, you target on the product adoption curve the innovators and the early adopters on the left side of the curve. You want those that are excited. They want to be the first to get a product, the first to tell their friends, first in line for absolutely everything. However, when you're thinking about increasing access and you want to move really quickly, you've got to keep the people on the right in mind, the late majority and the laggers. Grandma's got to be able to use the site too. And so we had 4 primary targets with this project: students K through 12, educators, lifelong learners, and families. Once we thought about increasing access, it was about how do we design for them in context. People are going to be reaching this site from around the world. They may have various bandwidth levels. We're not sure what device they're using. And so taking advantage of progressive web applications and responsive designs, which are techniques that allow you to scale your application up and down to meet the device where it is, when it is needed, is important. And that's how we built this application. Not only that, as we enter the museum space, you're physically entering into an elevator, and you start progressing down through time. You hear Maya Angelou speaking. You saw a clip of that in our video a few minutes earlier. Once you get to the bottom floor of the museum, it's almost as if you've been transplanted in time to the bottom of a slave ship. You're walking through, you're learning more about the Atlantic slave trade. You're learning more about the Middle Passage and all of the slaves that lost their lives along the way. And this is heavy stuff. You need a place to decompress. You need a place to think about it, a place to process. And so the museum has this beautiful court in which you can go and just contemplate. And a lot of people go there and they're just quiet. Some people go there, they sing. Some people talk with their families. And so how do you go about recreating a space like this online? See, when you go to DC, you may have waited months to get your ticket. Perhaps you travel there, you bought a plane ticket, you have a hotel room, you stand in line again outside to get in. Many people spend multiple days at the museum. When they come to your website, they can leave in half a second. The average user will leave your site if it doesn't load in 3 seconds. So in reality, we cannot recreate this experience, but we can meet the intent. And the intent is give a place where people can learn and become educated, take in the information and decompress as they need it. So the site was chopped up into books, into chapters. People were able to explore via the Constellation Explorer and how things relate to one another. They were able to explore via timeline. Take in a piece, reflect. Take in a piece, reflect. Through this Constellation Viewer, you're able to humanize people and really build empathy. As we see Harriet Tubman's Shaw here. And as large as life as Harriet Tubman was, this is a reminder that she got cold. She put on her clothes just like everybody else. As she sung Negro spirituals, Go Down Moses, to signify to other slaves that want to join her on the journey, we see that how it relates to the Fisk Jubilee Singers that took that same genre and made it much more widely used. These spirituals that talk to two things simultaneously, the pain and the struggle of today while grasping onto the hope of tomorrow. And we built empathy for those that lived in this space. The Point of Pine Slave Cabin from South Carolina. We were able to explore this. When you go to the physical museum, there's a physical structure. You can't go inside. And so the things that we're able to take advantage of in the digital space that we cannot do in person. This 318 square foot space, think of it more like a pen, where you would keep your animals and your hogs because these slaves were property. And to know that 10 to 12 at a time were in this structure, if you can walk inside and span it and see what that felt like after a long day's work to be piled up on top of other people. And you start to understand this plight, you start to feel it and build empathy. So as we create these digital experiences, yes, keep empathy on the forefront. Understand the context and build for people where they are. And ensure that access is forefront in mind. When this site was released in November of 2021, we had gone from almost half the population visiting the museum, 50 and up, to 16 to 65, 10 to 20% in every major demographic across the world. 140 countries in the world within 6 months had access to this experience. That is 70% of the countries in the world. We were nominated for and were awardee of a Webby, one of the top 5 in its category, which is synonymous to an Oscar for the internet, so that's a pretty big deal. One of the top 5 sites in the world in its category. And so yes, we've got a choice to build experiences that bring us together. And our hope in the future is many of you will join us on this journey to help build software with the soul and help create a world where good software powers things that matter. Thank you.